Did you know the average lifespan of a first responder is only 57 years old? That's 15 years less than the normal population. In this video, I'm going to tell you why that is, and I'm going to tell you what you can do as a first responder to avoid dying early. My name is John Kelly, and I'm a retired firefighter. And unfortunately, I didn't know the information that I'm about to teach you when I retired from the fire department in 2013. But over the last 12 years, I've learned extensively about holistic health practices so that I could heal myself and in turn, help you live a long, healthy life. When I was 33, after 7 years as a firefighter, I had crippling levels of anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thoughts. I was in what you call stage 3 adrenal fatigue. My cortisol was upside down, I had low levels of testosterone, and I was a wreck. I couldn't sleep at night. I didn't want to have sex with my wife. And it got so bad that I had to quit the fire department. Now, the reason first responders die 15 years earlier than the normal population starts with sleep deprivation, exposure to toxic chemicals, and constantly be in a state of fight or flight. Being exposed to traumatic experiences every single shift leads to post-traumatic stress disorder. The combination of these three elements over a 20-year period leads to increased levels of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and suicide. Just this year alone, I know 2 firefighters that have died of cancer, 2 that have died of suicide, and 1 that has died of a heart attack, all under the age of 60. So if you want to be a firefighter who lives long into retirement, I want you to start doing these 5 things. The first thing you need to do is recognize that this is a problem. You can't live a normal life. You have to live a life like a professional athlete. Professional athletes take care of themselves on and off the field. Understanding that you are fighting not 1, but 3 different opponents for your whole career is fundamental to you making the right decisions when you're not on shift. As a first responder, we get taught what to do on the job, but not what to do off the job. And what we do off the job compounds the damage that we get on the job, leading to our shortened lifespan. Now that you understand the seriousness of the job that you have, we can move on to the actions that you need to take in order to mitigate those damages. Action number 1, assess yourself. You should be taking yearly blood tests, quarterly hormonal tests, and you should be assessing your stress levels daily with a fitness wearable like a Whoop strap or an Oura ring. By assessing yourself on a regular basis, you're going to be able to catch things before they become a problem. By doing your blood work once or twice a year, you're going to be able to look at all the markers that can tell you how your organs are functioning. Your heart, your kidneys, your brain, your circulatory system. This way, if anything is off, you can begin to make lifestyle changes early so that it doesn't become a problem later on. The same goes for hormone tests. Being a first responder leads to hormonal imbalances within only a couple years of exposure to sleep deprivation and toxic chemicals. So by having your fingers on the pulse of how your hormones are functioning, you can avoid energy issues, weight gain issues, performance issues, and injury. Because having hormone dysfunction creates a cascade of problems that affects all areas of your life, from your professional life to your personal life. In fact, firefighters have been shown, on average, to have 30% lower testosterone than the normal population. So make sure you're checking that on a regular basis. And finally, daily assessments with a fitness wearable like the Whoop or the Oura ring. This way, you'll be able to look specifically at your nervous system by measuring your heart rate variability. If your heart rate variability is low, it's a signal that you need to do stress management techniques like breath work, yoga, long walks in nature, and not be training hard in the gym. But if your heart rate variability scores are good, that's the green light to train hard in the gym. As a first responder, you need to be able to titrate your training according to your stress levels. One of the biggest mistakes I used to make as a first responder was to work out hard, regardless if I had a lot of calls after midnight or I slept through the night. By working out hard, when you have high stress levels or low HRV scores, you cause more damage than good. So if you're not assessing yourself order yourself a Whoop strap or an Aura ring, get your blood work scheduled, and get a Dutch test to look at all your hormones and figure out where you are at this moment in time. Now that you understand the importance of the mindset and how to assess yourself, you have to start understanding the most important thing for a first responder is stress management. When most people think of health, they think of eating right and working out. And while those two components are great, especially for the normal population, stress management is paramount for first responders. Because if you're under high levels of stress, like most first responders, and you're doing too much exercise or eating the right foods or drinking alcohol or drinking too much caffeine, you're going to speed up the effects of the damage caused by being a first responder, and you're going to be more likely to develop the diseases we talked about earlier. Not to mention, stress levels directly affect everything underneath that, which is sleep, nutrition, and exercise. If your stress levels are high, you have poor sleep. If your sleep is bad, your metabolism doesn't work well. And if your sleep is bad, you have high stress levels and your metabolism isn't working well, exercise is going to do more harm than good. So understanding your stress levels through your fitness wearable is going to direct you on what to do that day and how to manage your stress. There are many different ways to manage stress, but one of my favorites is doing something called breath work. Breathing is the language that the nervous system speaks. Think about it. When you're working out, you're breathing hard. That puts you in fight or flight, which is good when you're working out or good when you're on a call. But if you're in fight or flight all the time, this is where disease develops. So the key to managing stress is being in fight or flight when you need to be and switching into rest and digest for the rest of the time. That's why I recommend everybody, especially first responders, spend 5 to 10 minutes every single day doing deep breathing exercises. And at least once a week, do it for 20 to 30 minutes. You can find countless breathwork exercises on YouTube, or you can go to a yoga studio where they typically have yoga, which is breathwork with movement. So if you're a first responder, make sure you're managing your stress. The next thing every first responder needs to focus on is prioritizing their sleep outside of their work. You can't control what happens at work, but you can control what happens when you get home. If you had a night where you run several calls or you work overnight and you can't sleep, you have to go home and get some rest. Unfortunately, daytime rest is not the same as nighttime rest. So if you're a firefighter and you're running a lot of calls, go home, take a 90-minute nap, and then make sure you prioritize sleep that night when you're at home. If you sleep all day and then you stay awake all night, you're going to further compound the damage of the sleep deprivation that you get at work. And if you're a nurse, a doctor, or a police officer who is working overnight, you got to make sure you don't do this forever. As soon as you can, you need to get on a day shift so that you can sleep through the night. Because nighttime sleep is necessary for brain health and body health. Now, there's many books that are written about sleep, but the basics of getting good sleep at night starts in the morning. One of the best things you can do for good sleep is to get sun first thing in the morning, which is going to reset your circadian rhythm. Then you want to cut caffeine by 12 o'clock. If you're drinking caffeine later in the day like I used to, it'll keep you up at night and disrupt your sleep. Then as the day winds down, you want to practice the 3-2-1 rule. That means 3 hours before bed, you put down the computer, 2 hours before bed, you stop eating, and 1 hour before bed, you put the phone down. And if you're not going to put the phone down before bed, make sure you put a blue light filter on it so it doesn't keep you awake. Now, along with the 3-2-1 rule, you want to develop a nighttime routine. For me, it's watch TV with my wife for a half hour, then get in the shower, floss, brush my teeth, take all my supplements, and then lay down and get ready for bed. I like to get in bed at least 30 minutes to an hour before I want to go to sleep so that I have extra time in case I toss and turn at night or wake up in the middle of the night. Because even when you're sleeping good, your sleep efficiency is never 100%. So to recap, get sunlight early, stop drinking caffeine by 12, practice the 3-2-1 rule, and develop a good nighttime routine. And as a bonus, make sure your room is as dark as possible and you set the AC for 68 degrees or less, because the colder it is, the better you sleep. Now that we've got sleep covered, let's talk about nutrition. The number one thing you need to do in order to live longer as a first responder when it comes to nutrition is eliminate processed food. Anything with more than one ingredient should be tossed out of your house. The way I look at it is if you do 3 meals a day, you want 90% of those meals to come from whole food sources. We're talking one ingredient: steak, broccoli, rice, potatoes, chicken, green beans, etc. All of those things have one ingredient. Those are whole foods. They have vitamins, minerals, fiber, enzymes, all the things you need in order to, 1, lower inflammation, 2, to keep the weight off. The more fat you gain due to sleep deprivation and your hormones being out of whack, the more likely you are to develop diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer. So it's not just all about having a six-pack, it's also about keeping inflammation low and keeping the weight off. And by adhering to this 90% of the time, that still leaves you 2 meals a week to eat whatever you want: pizza, burgers, etc. Now, along with eliminating processed foods, you also want to lower alcohol intake. When I was a firefighter, I would drink caffeine throughout the day in order to stay awake, and then I would drink alcohol at night in order to fall asleep. Now, this would help me fall asleep initially, but it wouldn't allow me to stay asleep because alcohol is actually bad for your sleep. So if you're using alcohol to fall asleep, stop, because it's not going to allow you to sleep good through the night. Now, you want to have a glass of wine once in a while? Fine, but treat your alcohol intake like your processed food intake. Only have a little bit every week. And if you can eliminate it altogether, even better. And finally, we get to exercise. As we talked about earlier, you want to exercise according to what your heart rate variability shows or your stress level. I call this smart exercise. If your HRV is low, you don't need to go do a CrossFit class or jiu-jitsu. That's going to screw you up even more, and it's going to mess up your sleep. So what you really want to do is, with a low score, go take a yoga class, go for a walk. This way you can lower stress and improve the likelihood of you sleeping through the night, so that the next day when your HRV score is good, you can do that CrossFit class or that jiu-jitsu class. Weight training, depending on how you do it, is right in the middle. If you're going to weight train with a low HRV score, stay light. And if your HRV score is high, go ahead and hit those heavy weights. Now, doing 1 or 2 of these things is going to help you, but by combining all of this into a holistic lifestyle practice, you're going to be able to increase the likelihood that you live past 57 exponentially. I didn't have any information like this when I was going through what I went through when I left the fire department. So I was forced to retire, and I had to figure all this stuff out as I went on my own. But thankfully, we have smart technology now, and with the internet, there's plenty of information out there to help you mitigate the damage from being a first responder. There's no sense in sacrificing yourself in order to save others. Being a first responder is the noblest job there is, but you can't forget about who needs you the most: your family. That's why it's paramount that you take care of yourself. And if you're interested in learning more about these practices, join my free school community, the Black Helmet Wellness Society, where we cover stress management, sleep, nutrition, and smart training practices to help you live a long, healthy life. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with one of your first responder friends so we can help improve the quality of life of first responders and keep them living long and healthy lives. Thank you. I'll see you guys on the next video.